Welcome to the 7th episode of Vault Log, a series all about Fallout Shelter, and in this episode we're going to be taking a look at the game's happiness system and some strategies to maximize the happiness level in your own vault. So before we get into the video, you're probably wondering, well, why is vault happiness so important? And it's important because there is a corresponding bonus that applies to your vault depending on your happiness level, and that increases resource production and decreases crafting times. So the best way to illustrate this is to start off with an example, and we'll actually take a look at a crafting process here that has 13 hours, 41 minutes, and 50 odd seconds to complete, and we're going to decrease this crafting time by increasing our happiness, which you can see in the top left corner. So it's a good idea to kind of keep track of that as we go through these examples. And the first method that we'll be using to increase our happiness is by adding dwellers to radio station rooms. Now this works the best if you have dwellers with a level 10 charisma, and this way you'll be able to get the most happiness out of your radio rooms. As you can see, our happiness percentage just keeps rising up, and we actually have quite a bonus now, so we'll go back and check on our room here. And as you can see, our crafting time is now down to 10 hours and 37 minutes from the original 13 hours and 41 minutes. So you can see why increasing your happiness level and maintaining it is so important for vault efficiency. Now before we get too far into the video, let's take a step back and talk about how overall vault happiness is calculated. So each dweller in Fallout Shelter has their own happiness percentage, and all those happiness percentages are then averaged together to give you your overall vault happiness level. So really, to affect the collective in Fallout Shelter, you have to focus on the individual dweller. Now a great way to focus on individual dwellers in Fallout Shelter is to sort them all by their happiness level, and this is a good way to identify problem areas and address them one by one. And as you can see right at the top here, we have a dead dweller, which is definitely not good for our happiness level. As you can see, he is in our Nuka-Cola room, and he is not the only one affected by this death. His co-workers also take a huge happiness hit, which in turn affects the productivity of our overall vault. As you can see here, we are hovering at 20% for the co-workers, which is definitely not where we want to be, but the fix to this problem is actually really easy. Just revive the dead dweller and the co-workers' happiness levels will rise again over time. Now dwellers probably aren't dying that often if you have an endgame vault, but beginner vaults definitely need to be on the lookout for dweller deaths. Now in this next example, we're going to be using the happiness sorting method again, and I'm taking a look at a dweller that just returned from the wasteland, and I had to revive, so they're not really that happy. But a quick way to bring up their happiness is to equip them with a happiness pet. And as you can see, their happiness level instantly rose to 100%. However, this is really just masking over the problem, and if we were to re-equip them with a pet that did not have the bonus, their old happiness level would return. So it's kind of like putting a band-aid over a bullet wound. You're not really addressing the problem. Now if you actually want to address the happiness problem in the long term, put the unhappy dweller to work in a resource room, and their happiness level will gradually start to increase the longer that they're in the room. Now this is a really good strategy if you have a lot of dwellers returning from quests and wasteland expeditions that aren't happy, and it's a good way to kind of just bring them back up to speed. Now another tip for bringing up your overall happiness is to have dwellers in rooms that correspond with their highest special stat, outfit included. So as you can see with Bob here, he has a high endurance stat, but he's working in the science center, which requires intelligence to be the most effective at his job. So he would actually be better suited in a Nuka-Cola plant. This not only raises your vault's happiness, but it also boosts the efficiency of your vault as well, because you're getting the most out of your resource rooms. Now while we're on the topic of resource rooms, let's actually take a look at rushing resource rooms, which is another great way to get a nice happiness bonus for all the dwellers in that room. And we have a 10% failure chance here, so it's a pretty good gamble. As you can see, we got a success there, and that means that all the dwellers in this room are getting a nice happiness bonus applied. Now this method can also be a bit of a gamble, because if you fail the rush, then all the dwellers in this resource room are going to get a decrease to their happiness level. So I really wouldn't recommend taking the chance unless you have an incidence chance below 30%. Anything above that is not worth it and will probably result in a happiness decrease instead of an increase overall. Now in this next example, we're going to be taking a look at a surefire way to instantly raise the happiness of two dwellers to 100%, and that's by having them hang out in these living quarters and potentially make some babies. So as you can see, we had a dweller at 98% happiness, and this guy has 87% happiness. So let's actually drag him down to her living quarters, and once they kind of start mingling together, their happiness will start to raise. And then if they decide to kind of, take things to the next level and have a child, their happiness will instantly raise to 100%. And this method is particularly useful for newer vaults because you're not only getting that happiness bonus, but you're also increasing your vault's population. Now for this next method, you'll actually need to have rescued Bottle and Cappy in the Nuka-Cola quest, and whenever they decide to visit your vault after they've been rescued, they'll give you a nice happiness bonus. As you can see, we have 81%, and then when they visit, we go all the way up to 97%. Now this is only a temporary bonus because when they leave, the happiness level reverts to its old status. However, it is a nice prize. Now if you like these informational Fallout Shelter videos, you may want to check out my Vault Log playlist where I put all the previous episodes, and the future ones will go there as well. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Vault Log, and have a great day.